start.
Let's see
I
if
don't
we
see
can.
Jason either. Where's Jason? Jason's.
They're both in, but I'm betting they're both in the lobby. I've admitted them, but I don't know why they can't hear. And I can't really see any of that. Is that the participant list?
That's talking. This is. See, Jason, I can hear, as he says.
Okay.
If you go down to participants. Over there.
Which one is
Here,
it?
give me the.
Yes, please. Because I can't see who he's behind. It says we are not permitted to unmute. She needs to be a participant.
Oh. So we just, City, Jason, and Melinda, we need to be able to bring them in as panelists. Can you hear us back there, Cam? I don't know who's there.
Cam TV. Do you know what that, it says add them, add.
Yeah, it's
We
sorry.
just need to include these folks.
There, now we hear Jason, now we
All
see
right.
Jason.
Time to get on. There you go.
Control there, stuff.
Yeah.
They can't use your own for themselves.
Ask to unmute.
And then we want to
Add.
Melinda.
Melinda, can you?
I
talk
am
in-
now unmuted.
Yeah,
There
there
we
you
go.
go.
Hi.
All right.
So we got you all three?
And then I'll just change the view to a gallery. No, I need
A grid.
Okay. I think we're ready, Melinda.
We're ready, Melinda, if you are.
Excellent, okay. So we're going to begin, officially call the meeting to order at 4:03 p.m. and we'll begin with roll call. And there is a bounce back, and so it sounds a little weird, but for everyone that is participating remotely, please bear with us. So beginning with roll call, is Craig Jean Pepper there?
No.
Peg
Craig is not here.
Jean Craig.
Pepper. Yeah. How about Dave Brennan?
Yes, he is.
Excellent. Mark Tannenbaum?
I am here.
I am here as well. Melinda Meyer. Jeff?
I am here.
Jason Wazork?
Jason's online.
Yes.
We get the thumbs up from Jason.
Yep. Jason's here.
And Chris Kinder.
I am here.
We're going to begin then after roll call with the approval of the minutes from the April 2022 meeting.
What did I have to change? It's the March. You have the March minutes. It's supposed to be April.
And when someone is ready, we'll entertain a motion to approve or amend the minutes.
I propose we accept the minutes as provided.
Do we have a second?
I'll second. Dave Brennan will second.
Excellent. Is there any further discussion about the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as presented, please signify by aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes pass. So the next portion of the agenda is for the public comments. Do we have anyone in the meeting room or online that would wish to present?
You heard from the
Mr.
public?
Kissel? No.
Okay.
No, we don't.
Okay. Then we'll move to old business. And we have, Chris, I suspect that this old business section will roll right into your Historic Preservation Planner report.
Yes.
And so why don't you begin with providing an overview of where we're at with selecting a consultant for the Historic Preservation Plan?
Yes, so we did meet last month. We talked about the selecting 3 finalists to consider as our, to choose from to serve as our consultant to complete the Historic Preservation Plan. We met on April 8th with the Walker Collaborative out of Nashville. There were several of us present that were in on that virtual interview. On April 11th, we met with members of the Lakota Group out of Chicago and Heritage Strategies out of Birchburnville, PA.
Same day.
Same day. I don't recall the times. I think one was in the morning and one was afternoon. We met then the following Wednesday, the 13th, to discuss those interviews and to discuss the consultant finalists. And after some discussion, the group decided that we would like to propose that we select the Lakota Group out of Chicago to serve as a consultant for our Historic Preservation Plan. We felt that their proposal and their interviews and subsequent materials, such as completed preservation plan examples, as well as a video presentation that they presented as an example, as well as their very diverse team, would be our choice. And so what we would like to do today is present the Lakota Group and have the Historic Review Commission vote to accept them as our consultant. We will then go before City Council for final approval, and then move into the contract phase of the selection. And if there's any discussion, I'm not sure how much we want to discuss since we've already had kind of an unofficial discussion of those interviews and why we chose Lakota Group. If we want to discuss that further, that's fine. If not, then what we need to do next is make an official vote to select them as our consultant. No discussion? Melinda, do you
Well, we
want?
did discuss it.
We discussed it fairly, for about an hour, I think, unofficially. That Zoom call, though, was an unofficial meeting of the Review Commission, is recorded. So if anybody wants to see that or see the discussion, then we can present that to them, of course. So Melinda, do you want to? She is unmuted again, or she needs to be unmuted again. That's why we can't. That's why we're not able to hear.
Do we want to make some comments? Because I can make just a couple comments for just
Yeah,
for the
I
record.
think that's fine for record's sake, that those of us who were in those meetings can kind of say why we selected them, how we felt about their presentation.
Just for Jason and Melinda real quick, I think if you mute yourself, I always have to ask you to unmute. I think that's part of the problem. So I'm going to continue. So don't unmute yourself unless it's sort of. I think that's. Here comes Craig. Melinda, can you hear us?
Hello?
I think you're unmuted now.
I can. I am sorry. The volume level is going up and down.
Is this taking? No, go ahead. Sorry. Okay.
And so, if I understand correctly, we had at least one member of the HRC willing to share a few comments about why the Lakota Group was the first choice.
Yes.
So Dave, would you like to continue?
Yes. Yeah, in interviewing any of these groups, I look for several things. Of course, experience is, of course, foremost. Experience in this type of plan, preservation plan, because, of course, there's a lot of consultants that do historic preservation, just studies, and there's all kinds of different documents. So I was specifically looking for experience in this exact area where we were looking for. And then with the discussion, when we were asking them questions, they were very competent answers, they were very confident in the responses, and it seemed like they really knew what we were looking for. They understood the scope. So those are recommendations that's why I was voting for them. But it really experience of this particular type of study, and just with the responses and the competence of their answers.
Are they physically going to come?
Yeah, they will. They will, once the selection is officially made, we have to vote to approve them. This commission has to vote to accept them as our consultant or offer the position to them. We will have to get it finalized by city council, and then we'll go into a contract phase. And then once that contract signs, they will be here to make an introductory presentation, to make introductions.
For the three? The three finalists?
No.
No, okay.
We did virtual interviews with each of them.
Oh, okay.
Are there any other members of the HRC that participated in the interview process that would like to say anything? Well, I just wanted to repeat what Chris has said earlier, which is that they were the three candidates that we reviewed kind of as finalists and interviewed, I thought were all really stellar preservation professionals. All of them had experience doing the type of work that we're going to be asking them to do. And with the group that is being recommended, the Lakota group, I think that they bring a tremendous amount of experience. They have experience working with communities of our size. Their work products, the sample work products that they provided were really excellent. It's always good when you enjoy reading, and enjoy may be the wrong word, but when you can actually get through a planning document, because you know that the members of the community are going to be using this document as well. So it's important that it's enjoyable, it's digestible, and so I thought the work products that they provided were excellent. And of course, the Lakota group also brought kind of a diversity with its own team that we wanted to see in the consultants that we bring hearing to hearing. So those are my own kind of assessment. Well, if we don't have any other HRC members that would like to speak, we will again entertain a motion from someone to recommend the Lakota group as our consultants for the historic preservation plan, which the recommendation will be presented then to City Council.
And I believe that date for City Council is May 18th, is that correct?
I think that's what we planned, yes.
Okay.
So we'll have to.
Yeah, so we'll be making that,
This week.
if the recommendation is made by the HRC, then we'll be making that presentation to City Council on May 18th.
Right. So I'm writing out the proposal, so I will make the proposal to recommend the Lakota group to be our consultant for the historic preservation plan.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll move to a vote. If those in favor of putting forth the Lakota group as the recommended historic preservation plan consultants to City Council, please signify by aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? Excellent.
And it is at 7 o'clock
We've
that
got a
meeting?
recommendation for council.
7:30?
Yeah. We have a finance committee meeting at 6, and then we have caucus usually 7 till 7.
Would you prefer to have members of the committee at that meeting?
If you would like to be there, maybe just stand. to be
Little
running
support.
for this,
At the city council?
I don't think we need to.
Who's the,
I think it would be good, because then, you know,
Okay.
council probably doesn't know.
I think it would be great to have, some commission members there, and we could just acknowledge that you're in the, in the public audience that night. But it'd be great to have Chris make the presentation, because I'm sure that not everybody on council knows you. and
Would
it's a good
you,
night.
will you then pull it from the agenda, right? Because they don't necessarily talk about each item.
Right, they don't talk about each one. Do you think we should have it separated so that?
Separated, that's
Yeah,
it.
we can do that.
If you wanted to,
Yeah.
just unless you think.
What date is that, Rick?
Wednesday,
we can talk about
7:30,
that, yeah.
Wednesday, the 18th.
Happy to go to caucus, though.
7:30.
Can talk, anyway, whatever is right.
Thank you.
I don't see it being controversial. But-
Chris,
Bless
you're
you.
going to make the presentation,
And
and the rest of us will just be there. you know.
I just think it'd be better to have some,
so we're just there for moral support.
yes.
It would probably be good, the place to do that would be at caucus, that would be the.
Caucus
the
at 7
presentation.
o'clock.
At 7.
Yeah.
At 7 o'clock.
Okay.
Because usually during the meeting, they don't discuss each individual item.
Okay.
And it's very brief,
Okay.
5 minutes,
Okay.
10 minutes.
That's doable. Okay.
moving on then to the next item on the agenda is under the category of new business. And Chris, this is the opportunity for you to share with us all of the things that you've been doing since our last meeting.
Well, fantastic, and I apologize because I'm having to read off my phone. I was going to print off my report so I could read it, but my printer decided to,
Save a tree.
what's that?
Save a tree.
That's right. But I did manage to get everybody else's papers printed off, so before it decided to quit on me. So it just, most of this month, as you read in the report I sent out earlier, that we made great strides in selecting a consultant to complete our first historic preservation plan for the city. As we mentioned in the old business, we did select 3 finalists, and they were interviewed by myself, Kathy Rosdick, current planning director, and several members of the HRC, though not every member was able to be on each call, but we did have a good representation for each interview. On April 8th, we interviewed the Walker Collaborative out of Nashville, Tennessee, and then the Lakota Group and Heritage Strategies were interviewed on April 11th. On April 13th, members of the HRC, along with Bill Callahan from our CLG representative for the Pennsylvania SHPO, met to discuss these interviews and select a consultant to present at this meeting for a final vote to recommend to City Council for approval. We're also continuing to progress on establishing our first locally designated historic overlay district. On April 12th, Kathy Rosdick and myself met with representatives of Gannon University. We had a good discussion about the creation of the West 60th Street Historic District. That seemed to go fairly smooth. They certainly had questions, and I'm sure they'll have more as we progress along. But it was, I think, a fairly productive meeting. And that meeting was also attended by Jeff Kidder and Anna France as well. In the coming month, 2 applications for local historic overlay district will be written. We'll be writing the one for PACA as well as for the West 6th Street District. And after each of those, there'll be public meetings to discuss the application and then move forward to create the district. We're also continuing to develop a worksheet, frequently asked questions on design guidelines and what those will look like within historic overlay districts. That seems to be the most common question we have when we talk to stakeholders and building owners within these districts is what will the design guidelines look like? So we're creating kind of a scenario or a hypothetical sheet, something that everybody can review that will kind of give them an idea of what types of projects would be reviewed and how they would be reviewed in those districts. I'm also finishing guidelines for the small grants to building owners and locally historic designated districts. I should have those within the next couple of weeks, and we'll hopefully by the end of the month have that put in place. And then once we have those historic overlay districts in place, we'll be able to begin hopefully issuing those small grants. And then last week, I was able to attend the Society of Architectural Historians Conference in Pittsburgh. It was a good conference. Was able to learn a lot about some of the preservation efforts in Pittsburgh, and I think some of that we can apply here, some of the strengths that they had there. So that was a really good conference. And just an update, I did submit grant applications for scholarship grants, CLG scholarship grants, to cover the cost of myself and one HRC member to attend the National Alliance for Preservation Commission's Forum Conference in July. That would be in Cincinnati. And so those were to be processed at the first of this month. So we should hear something hopefully by the end of the week about getting those grants. Also submitted the application for a scholarship grant to cover the cost of the forum or the training, the camp, the National Alliance for Preservation Commission camp training, which should be hosted here in Erie. It would be an in-person training session, all-day training session. That would be Saturday, September 17th is a tentative date. Once we get the official word about the grant covering those costs, then we'll make the official contract and get prepared for that training session. And that would also help us meet the requirements to have training sessions each year for our commission members. And we'll also be able to invite community leaders, community organization leaders to attend that meeting as well, attend that training as well. And that is what we have accomplished this month.
Would like people in different communities that were contemplating making a district be good candidates for the camp?
Yeah, so we're limited to 30 attendees.
Okay.
We could have additional attendees, but it would cost an additional, but it's a low cost, I think additional, I want to say $25 if we extend beyond 30 people. But we're focusing on community organization leaders, community leaders, and things like that to invite to these trainings. It'll be a very basic training in terms of introductory to historic preservation and municipalities. So it'll be a really good training, I think.
So the grant, tell me about the grants. Those are the ones through the
Yes.
Redevelopment Authority?
No, those are through the Pennsylvania SHPO, through the CLG funds. So both grants would
The
be.
one you said you're writing guidelines for?
Oh, that would be for the ARP funding that we have.
That's the one for the rebate.
That's
Yes.
right.
What was the final arrangement as far as
American
the
Rescue
dollar
Plan.
amount? And
We haven't gotten there.
American Rescue Plan.
We haven't decided that yet.
Yeah. It'll be pretty straightforward guidelines, and it'll be open to businesses as well as residential owners within locally designated historic districts, which is part of the reason why we're wanting to establish these districts fairly quickly, so we can begin distributing those funds. Because that funding, if none of that funding is out by 2024, the end of 2024, I believe, is that right, Kathy? Then we have to give up the funding. We lose the funding.
Use it.
Not spent, committed.
Committed.
How much was
Okay.
our allotment?
I believe it was 840,000.
840,000 is available for direct grants.
But we need to do it between now and the end of '24?
It has to be, yeah, we have to have the funds committed.
Actually before that, if it looks like we're not moving on the funding,
Uh-huh.
then we want to reprogram it before we lose it. So at least 6 months before that is when we'd want to see.
Yes.
So we really want to get it all done in '23?
Yes,
Yeah.
which I don't think it would be hard once we
No.
get some districts.
Once we get these districts, we have 3 that we're discussing now, and if we can get those 3 established, then I think that'll give us a pretty good opportunity to use those funds. It's not in my report, but I also wanted to discuss a little further about creating a historic preservation plan community task force that will help the HRC as well as the Lakota group help create the historic preservation plan. We'd like a diverse group of people from the general public in Erie. And once we get this contract in place, even before, I'd like to create kind of an offer to have folks within the community apply to be part of that group. We're talking, I think, 5 to 7 people.
We
part of that
publish that on our website and let the public know. And
Yes,
they
we'll publish it on our
apply
website.
Same way we applied.
Yes, absolutely.
And what's the charge for the task force? What are they going to do?
To help guide the historic preservation plan process, they would be assisting with meetings, they would be discussions, the consultant would be discussing with them items on the the plan, goals for the plan, and things of that nature. We haven't really defined it quite yet, what the actual charge would be. But that'll be forthcoming within the next few weeks. We'd like to have that created by the time that we have the first meeting with the consultants after the contract is signed. And that is all I have.
Chris, question.
Yes.
I wasn't here last week, but the PACA discussion, are we talking about the whole block?
No.
Just that single building?
Yes, because we are 1501 through 1509.
Okay,
we
that
actually
create-
have a
that's the
series.
That creates a district, yes.
And then our goal would be to either A, extend it further up, even up to the Manticore Club, or even include the Watson property, which, would be a great district, that whole thing. But in addition, there are 5 other properties that were built by Henry Mayer on State Street that include Keller's Last Laugh, the Mercantile Building, Room 33, the Lincoln Building, and the Bourbon Barrel Building that was just purchased by Mr. Stefanelli. So it's not impossible that you don't have to necessarily have contiguous, but the fact that Henry Mayer built these major properties on State Street that still exist, other than the Commerce Building, which he also built, no longer still exists, I think that would make a great district. And an opportunity to celebrate somebody who was really bullish on Erie.
Yeah. And commercial.
Will there be an opportunity to also consider the Parade Street redevelopment project? I want to make sure that those people are tuned into, preservation and know the right people to talk to, so just...
We did have a meeting with the organizers of the East Side Renaissance Corporation, and I mentioned they still have quite a ways to go before they'll be, ready to pull the trigger. But I did mention that a local designation and how that would be a benefit to them, and then in addition, where Chris could be of help in putting together a national register nomination, which would really open them up to the state and federal tax credits.
Absolutely.
A few years ago, I just started taking pictures. I called it, when you are down, look up. So I started taking pictures of the tops of buildings, where it would have either a name or a year when it was built. And Parade Street was probably one of the first ones I did that. And then the Lake Erie Lifestyle editor said, "Can you turn that into a story?" And I had so much fun doing it, because when you look up, you learn a lot just by looking up. Like that building that Gannon has at 7th and Peach. There's a keystone up there, and the builder up there, I forget who that person is, but on Parade Street, there's the Kirchner, I think 2 different Kirchner buildings. The Hans building at 6th and East Avenue that has been turned into Rosewood Apartments. I forget whose name is up there. But anyhow, it just a really, it was like
21st and Parade has the Mr. Coon's property on there, and that's still up there.
It was like
he was an
the
interesting
flip
person.
side to my column from a few years before that, when it was everybody looked down, and I saw the sidewalk plates, and I started documenting those, and somehow we got the attention of the city of Erie, so I think we're documenting those sidewalk plates. If you look down, you see who built the sidewalks in different parts. I just found a new person the other day.
So we have Riblet, it was a sidewalk piece that we mounted, and he was actually a very famous abolitionist.
Wow.
And also a contractor here in Erie. Wow. But I looked him up, and he's famous.
Oh.
And I have his we used to call those a stinkfish. I don't know why, but those little metal plates, when I was a kid, we called them a stinkfish. So I have a stinkfish on my, in the pack wall, just for fun.
Oh, that's cool.
It's great that they were so proud of the concrete work, they put a stamp on it.
They would stamp it or put those metal brass things in.
Yeah.
Cool.
There's one near 9th and Washington that's actually a half moon near where Lisa lives. It's like really arty. The other ones are all different, but I love that moon one. So anyhow, if you're down, look down, or look up and you'll feel better.
So Mark, you said you reviewed with your board the idea of getting it a locally designated historic district, right?
Yes.
Do they have any discussions about wanting to know what the requirements are before they sign up for this, or what?
In our case, we didn't care because we're already on the National Historic Register, and it was our understanding that it certainly could not be more than what we've already agreed to simply by being on the National Historic Register. So I think we kind of talked about that for as little as 2 minutes. We are careful with what we do on the outside of our building. It's really only the outside of our building technically. We have specific things on the inside of our building, our staircase, our elevator. There are certain things that we wouldn't want to alter inside of our building. But basically, the windows that we put on are already passed by the.
Yeah, you spent the money to get the arch top windows.
We got those arch top, but yeah, and they're black. They're not white vinyl, so there are some white vinyl ones that other people have put in the past.
And the reason I asked, I told Chris at the last meeting, I'd read through the Secretary of the Interior standards, and they had a whole section there on storefronts. So I didn't really go into that too much, but they talk about roofs and doors and windows. And
so even our sign was passed, so that's a very modern-looking sign with the multiple colors on it. But we had used the Warner channel, the way the letters are made in a channel look, and Keller's also had a channel. So we used those as examples when we applied for our sign. So here you have a very modern LED sign that was passed by the board, and they knew we were doing it before we did it. And it wasn't like, I think it took 3 months. We sent in the drawings, and they said, okay. We sent in photographs to go along with them, and it wasn't an onerous process. It just needed to. It was
You're
just.
talking
It was
about
just
submitting it to the
Yes.
to the National
yeah.
Register.
Before we
Do
put
you
this
use
sign.
PA share for that?
I don't know how we did it.
Okay.
We did it in a committee. I wasn't the one who necessarily. I was my idea, but I didn't necessarily do
Is that
it.
to fund it?
There you
No,
go.
it says Historic Preservation Office, the website, to ask for their questions and review.
I don't know how we did it.
It's also where we submit all our grant reporting, things of that nature.
Yeah.
But it was not terrible, is what I'm saying. It really wasn't a horrible process, or we couldn't have done it.
That's a good thing to say about government. It wasn't terrible.
It wasn't a terrible process.
Not always terrible.
And we've already agreed to it.
Well, the more you communicate also, the more they understand and know the
Yes.
whole story. You don't want to say, here, look at all this,
Correct. And there was follow-up. There was follow-up when we got on the National Historic Register. It took a couple of years to get that to take place. But there was follow-up. They did send it back to us. They asked for clarification. We had to do additional photographs and, send it back into them, and it did take some additional time. But it wasn't, they weren't being mean about it. It was just, they were just being careful. I don't mind hoops that are realistic. Just, there's 6 hoops, you jump through each one at a time, and 6 out of 6, you're done.
As long as you understand the parameters
Yeah.
and respond to it
Right.
timely.
As long as they don't change in the middle of it. Right, exactly. So I did not find it a problem, and our board did not think that whatever we come up with locally would supersede that. And it's my understanding that it's not going to. And anything that we would want to do, we want to do that anyway.
The parade district, where does it start and end?
They don't have one. I mean, there's not one that exists now. Their focus area is 6 to 12.
To 12, okay.
But
Well,
they
that
do
makes
have
sense.
sort of a phase 1 focus area that's a little less than that. I don't want to share too much because I'm not sure how much they've shared.
Are there individual listings?
I don't,
Krause's.
Yeah, that's.
I don't know. That's a good question.
With
I'm
their
not
history,
sure.
All of that's listed in
with
I
the
mean,
history
because
of the
you've got
company, you think they'd be on?
the Turner, is it East Erie Turners
Yeah.
is on there as
That's
well.
across
Yeah,
the
that's
street.
right, that's.
You got
that's on.
Krause's and then that Bees
Sure.
Appliances.
But then you have the old barber school is there, the haircut
That is
school.
the armory,
All the armory
Well, the
stuff on
armories,
6 and
yeah.
up.
of course,
That,
And the two
Armory's
I think the armory's on it.
I think they're,
Well, the armory's already,
on Fifth, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but on the west side of the corner was there was the old barber school that they taught, barber college, they taught haircutting.
Where was that?
But there was a barber school on the
Is that the
corner.
appliance place now? I think.
It's not Bees, that was the Windmill Restaurant.
Krause's has been an operating business for as long as it's been. I mean,
from a-
that's always been.
Krause's is a legacy
Yeah,
business.
Krause's is
I mean,
100
that's
years old,
one of
125
our,
years old, yeah.
that and Palacos and,
Yeah.
Mark, you could write a book, you know.
yes, he should.
I actually took a test about Erie and I missed 2.
I think,
It was online, I only missed 2.
yeah.
And they were, I thought, arbitrary, so.
Stupid questions.
I thought they could have been worded more clearly.
Well, if there's nothing else, I'm not taking over Melinda's job here, but I did want to, I did want to note that there is on May 16th, and I didn't even think of inviting the Historic Review Commission, but I should, at 4 o'clock, it's a 4 to 7, there's a training for the planning commissioners. Mill Creek and the city of Erie is putting that on. We've invited elected officials, but since the HRC acts in many ways as an arm of the planning commission, I'll share that invitation to you. It's here, it'll be here at 4 o'clock in the chambers. Denny Pucco, who's been in Erie before, he's probably the grandfather of planning in Pennsylvania. He's is going to be training, and the next day he's going to be training the zoning hearing board staff and members. So it should be pretty interesting. But I figured if you had an interest and you are available, you could come and learn about planning commissioners, because essentially you're an extension of their
How
work.
long's the program? Will he?
4 to
hour or
7.
2 hours?
4 to 7.
4 to 7?
Yeah, it's 3 hours, but I mean, if you get up and walk out.
And when is that? I'm sorry?
May 16th, Monday.
Do we have to tell ahead of time? Do we need a reserve or?
I'll send you a calendar invite, and
Okay.
all you have to do is accept it, so we have a number. And then I will say this is my last board meeting.
I know,
This is
it's
my
so
first
sad.
the first
Sort of the last.
board meeting that will be my last
Yeah, it's
of
so sad.
a couple of them. And it is very hard for me to say goodbye, particularly to this group. This was not an easy decision for me to make, to leave Erie. We've done, and I say we, I get all the accolades when I walk around and everyone's like, you're doing great work, you're doing great work. And I know what they really mean is the we behind all of it, because I could not have done any of this without the people sitting around this table, without Liz saying yeah, and Dave saying yeah, let's give it a shot, without the task force coming to this table, our very different table. But everyone owned the mission that we were trying to accomplish. And we moved mountains, honestly, in the short amount of time with historic preservation in Erie. And I am just, of all the things that I have done in my professional career, this has got to be one of the top things that I am most proud of. And I truly, truly believe, I say that with all meaning and heart, because I look back at what we've been able to do, and I am amazed. And what is so wonderful about where we are today is that this work will carry on no matter who's sitting here. And that gives me comfort in knowing that I can walk away and Chris will continue to be here. He's knowledgeable, he's excellent at his work, and you all will continue to stay here at least for a couple of years. I think you're staggered terms, so we got to get you reappointed before I leave. And it's just, if 5 years from now, people will think that this is something that Erie's always done. And you'll be able to look back and say, no, we haven't. This just happened.
None of that happens without a good leader, and that's what you were. you know?
Yes. We're
Yes.
gonna
I
miss
appreciate
you.
that.
Yeah.
You all got a calendar invite for next, is
The
it the 9th? You're invited to, I can't stay tonight, or else we'd all go out and have a drink or two. But next, is the 9th Monday?
Is it the 9th? Yeah. 9th.
Yeah, at Calamari's. Please join me. First round is on me, although Dave is arguing with me a bit on that one. We started at Calamari's with a soft handoff from the task force to this group, so I figured we should end it.
Okay,
But
calamari's on the 9th?
the 9th
At
at
what time?
4:30.
4:30?
Technically be out of work by then, so I figured we should wait. But I truly am one of the finest groups that I have worked with. The task force, starting with the task force, you owned all of it, and that's what made it so successful. This wasn't my plan, this wasn't my idea, it was everyone's. And that's what made it so successful. So just want to take a minute, Jeff, I don't know how much you want to put in the minutes, but I did want to say for the record that I am truly honored to have worked beside each and one of you. And when I come back, I expect local historic districts to be in place. I expect revolving grants and applications to be out there, and everyone to be fighting for historic preservation. And this preservation plan is just such a great launching pad for you. So anyway, thank you all.
We'll miss you.
No need to say anything back, so you save that for the 9th over a beer.
Well, I'm going to say something if I could.
Okay.
I was just say, yeah, I mean, Kathy, without your leadership and talent to bring it all together, we had a lot of great ideas, and of course, thank you, the mayor and Renee and everyone for supporting that, but they allowed you to do your work with the committee and pull the whole thing together. So I just want to thank you, because it wouldn't have happened in the past. We needed to have, this talent in place to make it move forward. So I just wanted to say that. And I know, and thank you for City Council also for agreeing to give you the latitude to pull these things together, because there's a lot of trust there. And then trust was there because of what you brought. So.
Yeah, that's true.
Well, and that's sad.
Well, that is an incredible high note.
Oh, Melinda's here. Okay, sorry, Melinda.
And so we'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
Yes.
No tears. Someone didn't. Oh,
Can someone second?
I
it?
will.
Was that Craig? It's Craig.
Who seconded? Or who?
You're the second, Craig's the
Okay,
first.
all right.